Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Jackson County, I'd like to welcome you here today to a candidate forum for the office of First Judicial Circuit Judge. The candidates are Christine Heins, Republican, Ralph Bloodworth, Democrat. This office, as well as many others, will be on the ballot in the November 8th election. For more information about the candidates for state and local elections and how and where you can vote, I encourage you to look online in the League of Women Voters of Illinois, Illinois Voters Guide. Now I'd like to welcome you to our moderator for tonight's forum, Laura Davis.
Laura, you're still muted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The goal of the forum this evening is to provide you with a greater understanding of the responsibilities and issues facing a judge of the Jackson County First Judicial Circuit, as well as learn more about the candidates who aspire to this office. The format tonight will begin with a 2-minute introduction or opening statement by each of the candidates. We determine the order by a flip of the coin before the program began. The introductions will then be followed by a question-answer period. I will alternate the order of which the candidate answers the question first. 1.5 minutes are allowed for each response. The questions were sent to the candidates prior to this event, so they've had time to think about them and prepare. At the conclusion of the question-answer period, each candidate will have just a 1-minute opportunity to tell us more about themselves, bring up an issue that was not covered if they choose, or respond to comments made by their opponent. During the forum, your screen will be divided into 4 parts. A screen for each of the candidates, one for me as the moderator, and a screen recording the response times. Candidates, if you need a question repeated, please don't hesitate to ask. If I make a mistake in the order of questioning or something else regarding the format, please bring it to my attention. Candidates, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, no.
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, great. We're going to begin our opening with candidate Bloodworth. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the League of Women's Voters, and then as well as Ms. Heins for participating this evening and giving us this opportunity to talk to folks. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ralph Boomer Bloodworth. For those that don't know, I'm 48 years old. I am married and have been for 22 years to my wife, Jill Womack Bloodworth. We have 2 teenagers who are both in high school. Prior to becoming, I'm what's called an associate judge at this point in time. Prior to becoming an associate judge, I practiced law in Southern Illinois for 12 years. Practiced in what's called the First Judicial Circuit, which is the circuit that we serve and at which this resident circuit judge spot is located in Jackson County, the southern 9 counties. Also practiced throughout Missouri, the Eastern District of Missouri in federal court, Southern District of Illinois, and other courts and counties throughout Illinois. In 2012, I was appointed as an associate judge to fill the vacancy of Judge Kimmel, who retired. The way it works, the 14 resident circuit judges, there are 14 in the southern 9 counties, they are the ones who appoint the associates. I was appointed then, re-elected at the end of his original term, or reappointed in 2015 and again in 2019. Those positions are every 4 years. I'm running now to fill the vacancy of Judge Grace, who retired as resident circuit judge. As part of my, as an associate, I've gained valuable experience during the past 10 years. I was sworn in this week, 10 years ago, strangely enough. And so I've gained experience, handled all dockets in Jackson County, cases on all dockets at least. Primarily, I'm on the criminal felony docket now. That we are evaluated each time we are reappointed, and my numbers have gone up each time in those evaluations.
Thank you, candidate Bloodworth. Candidate Heins.
Yes, and thank you also to the League of Women Voters and to Ralph for coming here this evening. And I'm going to apologize to those who are watching. I don't normally sound like this, but I am recovering from COVID and it attacked my voice. So that's why I sound like this. But my name is Christine Heins. I am a native of Jackson County. I've lived here since I was born. My family's been here since the mid 1800s sometime. I've been a practicing attorney in Jackson County for almost 30 years. While my office is in Jackson County, I'm a small business owner. I've also traveled to all of the 9 counties in the First Circuit and practiced law. I have been a defense attorney, which is what I do now, and also a prosecutor as well. I have done much civil work. I have represented clients, thousands of clients over the last almost 30 years in divorces, probates, wills, tax issues, real estate, contracts, traffic issues, you name it, I have done it. I was also fortunate and honored to be appointed by Jesse White, our Secretary of State, to be what's called a formal hearing officer. And from 1999 until 2005, I made legal decisions similar to what a judge does as to whether or not petitioners are granted the right again to get back on our roads and drive. And these were people who had their licenses revoked for manslaughter, homicide, other misdemeanors, felonies. It was up to me after they presented their case with their attorney and also with a prosecutor, and I made the decision as to whether or not they had met the requirements to protect the public safety and get back on the road. So I took that very seriously. And like I said, I made literally hundreds of decisions of people who were wanting to have their driver's licenses put back into action.
Thank you. Thank you, Candidate Heins. Okay, we're going to move to the questioning now. And the order of the questioning is decided who goes first by the alphabet. So I'm going to pose the first question to Candidate Bloodworth, and then Candidate Heins will be able to answer it. And then we'll switch that order, who answers first, for the remaining questions. Let me remind you that you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question, and the timer is there on the screen for you. The first question is, and this again is going to begin with Judge Bloodworth. Many candidates are unfamiliar with the purpose and function of the Illinois Circuit Courts. What should they know about the Jackson County Circuit Court to help them assess your candidacy?
Yes, thank you for the question. Several things. The role of these circuit courts is to provide a meaningful place for folks to resolve disputes peacefully, no matter what it is, and to conduct business. All types of dockets, which I have been on, all the dockets for the most part, are covered cases on those, from starting with traffic and ordinance violations all the way up to the criminal felony docket. But it provides people a place to go and peacefully resolve those disputes. The role of the resident circuit judge is a little different than the associate. As an associate, gaining experience handling those dockets, learning those things throughout the years that you serve as an associate. The resident circuit judge has more. With experience comes additional duties and responsibilities. You are involved with ensuring dockets are maintained and handled efficiently, coordinating things with the circuit clerk's office, the jail, the sheriff's department. New laws are continuously coming down that you're hearing about now, and responding to those and making sure things are set up in the courthouse to ensure that cases can be meaningfully moved forward in a timely fashion, and give people a place where they can go to get a fair shake in deciding those things and answers to their questions. And they can walk out of there knowing it's over with and feel they were treated fairly.
Thank you, Candidate Bloodworth. Candidate Heins.
Yes, thank you. The courthouse is a place where people go to solve their problems. Obviously, they've not been able to solve them among themselves, and so they look to a judge and the courts to solve their problems. The Circuit Court of Jackson County is a court of what they call general jurisdiction, which means that it hears all types of cases brought to it by its citizens. There's criminal cases and there's civil cases, and the judges are the ones who make the decisions to resolve and solve the problems of the people that come before them. In Jackson County right now, we have 2 full circuit judges, which means they are elected by the people of the county. And I believe we have 3 associate circuit judges, which are appointed by the circuit judges. And so all of the judges work together to cover the various dockets, be it civil dockets like probate, family law, small claims, and then the criminal docket as well. And the chief judge of the circuit, of Jackson County, is Judge Salverson, who has more administrative role to fulfill as well in terms of dealing with, for example, finances, the county board, the public defender, the state's attorney. All of those things come under her purview, and she is in charge of keeping all of those people in line, and she does a great job in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. This question will be answered first by candidate Heins. Due to COVID-19, the Circuit Court implemented temporary changes in operations, including Zoom hearings. Which of these changes would you like to be permanent and why? And which are you eager to have curtailed and why?
Sure.
Candidate Heins.
Thank you again. I have found that the changes that were implemented during COVID have really helped the people that come before the court. I can speak solely of my clients who now, because of Zoom hearings like this, don't have to take off work and lose income. They can take a break from work, they can go into the break room, they can go into their car, and it really has helped the working people of our county not lose out. And I believe it's opened the courts better and more fully to its citizenry by having the Zoom court. Right now, I have had bench trials via Zoom, and if you want, you can even have jury trials via Zoom. So the system now, as it's set up, is really designed to make it as easy as possible to protect not only the attorneys, the attorneys and the judges, but also the people that come and present themselves before it. So I would like to see the changes remain because they have been for the good of the people who come before the court.
Thank you. Candidate Bloodworth.
Yes. I think Zoom, COVID forced us into Zoom and made us get out of our comfort zone, which I think has been a great benefit. And we were up and running within 30 days approximately of COVID, the shutdown, and have been running ever since, handling everything other than jury trials by COVID during that process. It's been a fantastic benefit for citizens of the community. We live in a mobile society now, and people travel, they leave the area, people can join in and conduct their court from all over the United States. I have handled everything up to a jury trial on Zoom in contested hearings, and it's just been fantastic. People don't have to miss work. Child care is a problem. Transportation is a problem in Southern Illinois. I have found that actually attendance shockingly went up in my courts, which has been fantastic because people will see a case call, they'll contact somebody if they log on to Zoom. So I think the vast majority of things I would like to see kept. We still are setting some things in person if somebody is unable to do Zoom and want it in person. The one thing I would find it difficult to do a jury trial or highly contested hearings with a lot of exhibits by Zoom. I think those things should remain in person. I do sentencing hearings where families and victims from across the United States are able to join in by Zoom. I think it's a good thing.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by candidate Bloodworth. The pretrial provisions of the Illinois Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act, the SAFETY Act, goes into effect this coming January. The pretrial provisions, along with other parts of the Act, have been characterized as sweeping and include abolishing cash bail, easing pretrial release conditions, and changing the offense class of conditions of pretrial release. This is a three-part question. First, what are your thoughts about the new law? Second, what is the role of the judge in deciding whether an arrestee will be detained? And third, how would you determine whether an arrestee should be detained? What would be the crucial factors?
Thank you. My thoughts on the new law are it's groundbreaking, certainly, and has good intentions. It really does. I think it's very, very difficult to implement in rural areas. And even though Jackson County and Williamson County are the most populated two in Southern Illinois, it's going to be difficult. And whether or not I like it or anybody likes it, it's here. It's coming. It's like a test that's set on a certain date that's not moving. So January 1st, this goes into effect. And there are a lot of things that'll be put into place, and we're going to deal with it. But initially, it's going to be here. So we're going to be set up to handle it, of course. And that's what we're in the process of doing now. But people need to understand that it's difficult, and you're initially going to have a hearing within 48 hours. And so before it even gets to a judge to make this determination, the state's attorneys have to file something, a petition to get it before the judge. So if not, we never see it. It doesn't come to us. So they'll have to file that, and a hearing will have to be had. The problem is if somebody's picked up on a Friday, you're going to have court open probably on a Sunday, where you have the full court staff there, state's attorney, defense attorney, clerk, court reporter, judge, and other courthouse personnel, from 7 to 9 folks to handle those things. So it's going to be difficult, but we'll be able to have it up and running and do it because it is here. So the factors, whether or not someone's a danger to a specific person or society or might run.
Thank you, Candidate Bloodworth. Candidate Heins.
Yes, thank you. It is definitely a game changer. The new Safety Act changes everything. It turns it upside down. And the General Assembly, in its wisdom, has decided to pass that law, and we as citizens and judges will follow it. The role of the judge will be limited to what is brought before him or her. For example, as Ralph said, there is a 48-hour window of time during which the state has the burden to file a petition to detain a person who's been charged. If there isn't enough time, if they don't meet the 48 hours, then that person is not detained. So it's a large burden on the state to present by clear and convincing evidence, which is just one step below beyond a reasonable doubt, as to why that person should be detained. Finally, how would I determine? Again, it's going to have to look at the issue of safety, whether there are people who are going to be possibly physically harmed, if the person is not detained, and all of that goes into the petition that will be filed by the state's attorney. So the judge will not see it, know anything about it until it's filed by the state's attorney's office.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Candidate Heins. Are there any ethics reforms you believe are needed for judges? If so, what are they? If not, why are none needed?
Thank you. The judges are practice and behave under the Code of Judicial Ethics, which are statutory, which is a law of Illinois. And those ethics codes are very high, so a very high bar for a judge to meet. And I personally believe the judges that I know have no problem in meeting that high bar. The judges I have been fortunate to appear before, and there have been many in almost 30 years, have all been men and women of character and high integrity, and I would have no problem recommending that they, to them, to anyone. Now, in the case of a rogue incident where a judge is not behaving the way that a judge should behave, there's also there is a judicial inquiry board that can investigate a judge if a complaint is made, and can actually go so far as to removing a judge from office. So the Code of Judicial Ethics has inherently built into it a way to take care of and deal with the very, very, very rare judge who does not behave according to the high ethical standards that are required.
Thank you. Candidate Bloodworth.
Yes, thank you. It's an interesting question coming at an interesting time because they just passed a new Code of Judicial Conduct as of July 1st of this year that goes into effect January the 1st of next year, 2023. The last time that was done, I think, was in 1993. There's been various modifications and update. So they repealed the prior one and have implemented a new one going into effect now. The purpose being to update things. Again, the world is changing primarily with social media and online things. You know, a lot of the old rules remain, but with updates to focus on those types of things. That has become very difficult because of the whether it's posting, people trying or wanting to respond to things. You have to have broad shoulders as a judge. And I think the new ethics reforms in those are trying to address those types of things, what you can comment on, whether or not you can take positions on certain issues. And we're not allowed to do that. We've got to be fair and impartial and follow those rules. And it was definitely time for those updates to come out. I think with how fast things change, social media wise, electronic wise in the world, those are going to have to be done much more frequently, especially regarding the social media, online, electronics, things like that. It just has to be done with how quickly things are changing. And I think they can go further and continue to address those types of things. So it is a good thing that's happening.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by candidate Bloodworth. In Illinois, judges are elected and the elections are partisan. What are the values of the Democratic or Republican Party that cause you to affiliate with that party? How will those values be reflected in your judgeship?
Yes. The values of the Democratic Party and why I chose to run as a Democrat are caring about the individual and protecting the individual's rights, no matter their socioeconomic status, race, national ancestry, anything along those lines, gender, sexual orientation, but protecting the individual, the workers. I think we all, political parties, both, should want the same thing: safe communities, good work, good jobs for folks, good schools, safe schools, and individual rights. I think as a political parties, we should all want those things. Aside from the national issues, the state and local level, and particularly the local level, which we're dealing with, that's what we should all strive for, but different roads to get there. I can understand that, but with the same purpose. A lot of folks, and I take it as a compliment because I am a judge, they asked, what are you? When I said I was running, are you a Democrat or a Republican? I'm supposed to be fair, impartial, neutral. And so I thought that was a compliment. The reason I chose to run as a Democrat is that support of individual rights, and no matter what demographic it might be, in seeking and supporting those things and helping people. That's what I strive to do as a judge, is to help folks peacefully resolve disputes and still move the case forward as best you can and help individuals if they're willing to help themselves.
Thank you. Candidate Heins.
Yes, thank you. I chose to run as Republican because all of my life, one of my personal heroes has been Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a very strong supporter and a member of the Republican Party. And he taught all of us, I believe, that you can transcend party politics as he did. He was Republican and he gave his life so that all of us, all people in our country, could be free and have personal freedom and the right to live their lives as they choose. That's why I'm Republican, because I am an admirer, an ardent follower of Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you. The next question will be directed first to candidate Heins. More and more citizens are representing themselves in matters before the circuit court. How can the court meet the needs of those citizens who do not have attorneys?
Sure, that's a very good question. And right now, I believe the Illinois Supreme Court is very active in suggesting ways for the citizenry to have more help in self-representation. We're seeing more and more of that when I'm in court. I see that myself. And I think that, for example, in our courthouse right now, there is a law library up on the top floor that can be made available to citizens should they desire to use it. I know that there are computer stations available as well. I think those should be made available to people who want to represent themselves. And in terms of a judge's response to a self-represented litigant, it's very important, I believe, to hear people, to listen to people, to let them know that they are being heard by you. Give them their time in court, their day in court, so that when they walk away, they feel as if their problems have been resolved by someone who took the time to listen. They may not like the result, but at least they were listened to. And I think it's important that we continue to encourage people by helping them with legal research capability to represent themselves if they so choose.
Thank you. Candidate Bloodworth.
Yes, it is very much on the increase of folks representing themselves. And in the past, when I started as an associate, I handled ordinance violation and traffic court, where probably a high percentage of those are self-represented litigants on one side. And so with experience, you learn your own way, best way to deal with individuals representing themselves. And it takes patience, a lot of patience, calmness. You got to remain calm, cool, and collected when folks appear in front of you. And you have to remember this, no matter what, is the most important thing to that individual at that point in time in their life. It's stressful. They're out of their normal element. It's something that they haven't dealt with before. It's very intense. And a lot of times this person can be thinking that, hey, am I going to walk out of here today? Am I going to lose my children today? Things like that. And you've got to remember that as a judge and be calm. Still move the case forward. You can't give legal advice to pro se litigants or self-represented individuals, but you can calmly explain things to them while still moving the case forward, giving them their day in court, and working through those issues. One thing that you have to be careful as a judge is sometimes we're almost making it easier for an individual to handle their case or practice law than a lawyer. And so you worry about that for local lawyers in the area. That's a concern to keep in mind as well.
Thank you. And Candidate Bloodworth, this question will be answered first by you. Both the U.S. and Illinois constitutions guarantee citizens a fair right to a trial and the right to a jury of their peers. While jury diversity has improved significantly in recent decades, juries overall do not reflect the demographics of the population. What is your assessment of the jury diversity in Jackson County? If you think it could be improved, which of these commonly mentioned factors or others would be most helpful? Broadening juror qualifications, regulating the selection process by limiting preemptory challenges, or increasing juror compensation?
Thank you. Clock starting. All right. Yes, I have presided on the criminal docket since 2016, probably tried, well, I know I have close to 75 to 100 cases to jury verdict. I will say it's okay in Jackson County. I don't know the exact demographic breakdown percentage of Caucasian versus others, but I will say it's okay. We're the number of minorities that make a jury in Jackson County. What it comes from as a system, a computer system comprised of driver's licenses, voter registration, Illinois ID, Illinois disabled persons cards, and then unemployment insurance claims. I think that can be broadened to probably help to other qualifications. I don't agree with limiting preemptory strikes because that can backfire on an individual, especially here. A great number of our folks are employed by SIH, SIU, or corrections. And so if a defendant wants to use strikes on those folks and you limit those strikes, or a PI case, personal injury, you're going to limit those as well. And there's a system or a challenge in place if somebody's using it for racial discrimination purposes on dealing with that and making that decision for the court. And so I do not, agree with doing that. I think those should remain. They're at 7 now on a felony case. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heins.
Yes, in the cases I have tried here in Jackson County, excuse me, I have found the jury pool to be extremely diverse and representative of the community. There's been an equal mix of retirees, equal mix of gender, equal mix of races, equal mix of ages. And so I have always been extremely pleased with the jury pool. I think that to broaden a juror qualification beyond being a resident of Jackson County, I think we might run into some elitism there somewhat. And I think that the people of the county, the common people, are the best judges whenever it comes to being comprised in a jury, to have a true jury of your peers. I do not agree with any type of limitation of the peremptory challenges. There is a mechanism that if the judge believes that an attorney is using it, for example, in a racially motivated bias, then that can be dealt with. And so I would not change anything now about the peremptory challenges. Regarding juror compensation, I think that would be wonderful. I think you'd have more people wanting to serve if you could pay them more. However, that could be a big drain on the county, and I don't know how we would balance that to make it work.
Thank you. And this next question will be answered by candidate Heins first. Along with integrity, professional experience, legal competence, and commitment to public service, judicial temperament is a core criteria of an effective judge. Temperament is relevant to the full sweep of what judges do. Explain why temperament is an important characteristic for a judge and describe yours.
Temperament is extremely important. If you want people to listen to you, to take away what you have to say, to learn from their mistakes, it's very important that a judge have the right temperament. I've been before judges who had remarkable temperament and judges who were not. And it's, you always remember and appreciate the judges with the temperament of integrity and patience. In terms of my personal temperament, I describe myself as someone who is respectful of others, and that would carry over to me as a judge. You have to be respectful of people, of their differences, of how they talk, what they think, and give them their due, give them your ear, give them your time, so that they know that they are being heard and that what they have to say is important. So temperament is an extremely important issue for any judge. Yes.
Thank you. Candidate Bloodworth.
Yes, thank you. It is essential. I mean, it is one of the key things and attributes of a judge. You have to have the right temperament. And the same thing in private practice, you saw judges, or I did, with one extreme to the other. And as a judge, again, getting back to the litigants, you have to remember this is the most important thing to them. It's very stressful to them. It can be frustrating and tense, and how you respond to that can feed into it as a judge. And so temperament can de-escalate the situation. It can have a calming effect. If folks are being loud and getting louder, then you should get quieter and stay calmer. And I think I have found in my 10 years of experience that works. It does de-escalate things. And that's how I would use it as a judge and continuing to be a judge. My scores, well, they were 100% on temperament in the last judicial evaluation. And I think that matters. It's a key thing on how court is conducted and how litigants feel when they appear in front of you. And that's important when you're trying to help people, whether it's drug addiction, fight those things, talk to them and work through all their issues. This is their day in court and they're there. And if you can help them, we should help them if they're willing to help themselves. And if it's a dispute, find a way to resolve it where they leave feeling like they may not say it, but they were treated fairly and got a fair shake.
Thank you. And this is going to be the last question of the evening, followed by your concluding remarks. And candidate Bloodworth will answer this one first. Tell us about your past legal experience and how that experience prepares you to be a circuit judge. You may want to share the greatest accomplishment of your legal career.
Sure. Beginning in private practice, I practiced throughout Southern Illinois, the Southern 9 counties. I think that helped me become an associate because the judges at that time saw me do things in court and represent litigants in court. And that's why I was appointed at that time and reappointed later on in 2015 and 2019. Legal experience, I represented people in all types of cases. You generally do a little bit of everything in a rural area and focus on some other things. So I did everything from car accidents to minor criminal matters, probate matters, things of that nature in private practice, representing workers in claims, and then individuals in claims was what I primarily did in private practice. As a judge, I started off in 2012 on the dockets of traffic and ordinance violations. I've handled all dockets, miscellaneous remedies, probate, criminal, misdemeanors, felonies. Most of the dockets in Jackson County, or at least cases on them over those years. That experience will serve me well and hopefully the position as resident circuit judge in doing all of those things and gaining that wide variety of experience. It's not a learn on the job position. That's what the associate judge is for, learning on the job. The resident circuit judge, you use that experience in that position. And so that's a key difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Candidate Bloodworth. Candidate Heins.
Yes, thank you. I've been practicing law in Murfreesboro for almost 30 years, and my practice has focused on both criminal defense and civil matters. I was also a prosecutor prior to starting private practice on my own. I'm a small business owner here in Murfreesboro. I have employees, and my practice right now is both, like I said, criminal defense and civil in nature. I've done a lot of family law, divorces, custody disputes, guardianships, probates, estate plannings, wills, real estate, contract disputes, tax disputes, and all of that has served me well to give me a broad range of knowledge and experience with which I can apply to being a circuit judge. I've also, as I said before, had the opportunity to make legal decisions for people who were seeking to have their driving license privileges reinstated. I was appointed by Jesse White, Secretary of State, to be a formal hearing officer. And from 99 to 2005, as I said, I spent at least 1, sometimes 2 days a week deciding hundreds of cases before prosecutors and defense lawyers, making rulings on objections as to whether people would have their driving privileges reinstated. That also serves me well in my experience to be a judge.
Thank you. We're going to move to the concluding remarks. Please take the remaining time. You have 1 minute to tell us anything more about your qualifications, to respond to your opponent's comments, or to tell us anything else you would like to mention. Because Candidate Bloodworth went first with the opening, we'll ask Candidate Heins to begin concluding remarks.
Yeah, thank you. Of the 21 judges who are in our First Circuit, only 6 are female. And I think it would be a great service to the bench, the local bench, to have another woman on the bench so that the judiciary is more diverse and representative and inclusive of the population with which it serves. In addition, this election is very unique in that if I am fortunate enough to be chosen, Ralph keeps his position as an associate circuit judge. So you would have 2 judges who are both qualified and ready to serve you. So I think it's important for everyone to know that about me. And I thank you for your time this evening and letting me talk, even with my raspy voice. Thank you so much.
Candidate Bloodworth.
Thank you, Christine. Yes, folks, I appreciate the opportunity, and I do want to ask for your vote. And it's based upon experience. It really is. The resident circuit judge is a position that needs and requires experience in it. The associate judge is to gain that experience. And so that is a question for the voters. Why run now? And who is the best candidate for the county at this point in time to lead them going forward with the big changes coming in the law, with the Safety Act, more access to judges, more electronics. There are timeline guidelines that are in effect now where a case has to be started and finished very quickly. And so those things matter. I have the endorsement of the police unions, Jackson County Sheriff's Department, the Carbondale Police Department, as well as labor and other unions. I think my experience serves me well, and my judicial evaluations have gone up in 2015, 2019, and again this time. And so I want to thank you for the time and ask for your vote. Thank you.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Jackson County, we want to thank both candidates for taking your time, sharing your thoughts and your positions with the community, with the voters. We very much appreciate it. Don't just hang up or whatever you do at a computer. We have just a couple of brief announcements about upcoming events. On October 5th at noon, the League will present a panel discussion about the City of Carbondale Home Rule referendum that will be on the November 8th ballot. To access this event, also visit the library website to register. Voters also need to be aware that there will be a proposed amendment to Article 1 of the Illinois Constitution on the November 8th ballot. A brochure that includes the amendment language and states pros and cons is available on the Illinois Secretary of State website. In the past, a paper copy of this brochure was mailed to each individual household prior to the election and may occur again this year. The sample ballot has also been in the newspaper. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Jackson County, I express appreciation for the candidates' participation this evening and their willingness to serve. Thank you to the audience for spending time to become a more informed voter. Be sure to take advantage of early voting and vote on November 18th. Thank you very much.